The Democrat Party has a new strategy to win elections. Rather than convince existing voters on the issues, they'll just create new voters. That's why we have proposals now to grant the right to vote to felons, to children, and to illegal immigrants. Joining Tammy and me now is Professor Jason Nichols. Jason, what's the thinking behind this? Why should children vote, and why should people who aren't citizens vote?
Well, with children, I would agree. You know, I read about the proposal for Washington, D.C. in particular. Now, this is not a power grab. Washington, D.C. has never been in play for Republicans. 91% went for Hillary Clinton, 4% went for Donald Trump. So this is not a power grab by Democrats. It's not even in play.
No, but even if accepting that it's a one-party state,
right?
Extending the franchise to minors is if you're saying it's unnecessary, that's fine, but it's a radical move nonetheless, isn't it?
I would agree, particularly with 16, but I would say at 17 with parental consent, you can enlist in the military. So I would say perhaps we should have some sort of proposal where you can vote at 17 with parental consent. If we would trust you with the national security of our country, then why can't we trust you to cast a vote?
Well, what about, speaking of the national security, what about people who bust into the country and are illegal immigrants? Voting is a privilege of citizenship and allegiance, or am I just being Mr. Squaresville?
No. Well, I would say, you know, if you're referring particularly to a couple of localities in the state of Maryland, particularly College Park, obviously I have an investment in College Park. I think that the first thing is that this is a local matter. This is not about you know, voting for president or governor or anything like that. It's about fixing potholes. It's about removing snow. And I think that people who have an investment, a lot of the people, whether they're documented or undocumented, pay taxes in those areas, pay property taxes. They have the right to make some of those decisions.
Undocumented dog catchers. Yeah, Tabby, go for it.
Yeah, look, the city actually, they didn't actually end up passing that because there was suddenly a concern that the citizenry wasn't able to chime in. But your point, Mark, is key, is that this sets a tone, it sets a precedent, and that it's whether it's like L.A. and what L.A. and London do tell you what the left is up to because there's no pushback. But this is about the franchise, about the importance of being a citizen, and I think that that's what the American people are concerned about is where is this road going? And you know, of course you can't have children voting. Their brain literally is not complete. There's a web that doesn't complete until you're about 21. So these are efforts to, in fact, yes, in some cases change the vote or to enfranchise more people because you can't persuade them on the issues. The Democrats are having trouble with that. But it's also to set the precedent that can move through the rest of the country.
You use that quaint phrase, the American people, Tammy. Jason, Bertolt Brecht, in a very famous observation after things went badly in one East German election, he said it's time for the government to elect a new people. This new Rainbow Coalition, all right, because I don't know what it is, people of color, gays, transgendered, whatever, wasn't enough. So we're now importing people to add to the Democrat voting bloc, and we're now extending it down through high school and grade school until there's a permanent majority. Is that the plan? That's the master plan?
I think that of course you're being very hyperbolic there. I think really? Number one, when we're talking about what's happening in College Park, again, I think Tammy is absolutely correct that you can't change the charter unless you have 6 out of 7 votes. They have 4, so it's kind of a moot discussion. But there are areas in Maryland where undocumented people who pay taxes, who are participating in those communities, are, you know, allowed to vote on a pothole. And I don't think that there's anything, you know, necessarily crazy about that. There's a scare tactic that says this is going to come to New York City. This is going to come to L.A. It's not happening. We know that's not happening.
Which paragraph of the Constitution has this amazing pothole vote in, Tammy? I'm like a foreigner. Help me get up to speed here, because Jason's attaching huge significance to it.
Well, look, politicians have one idea of what they want, and that is to bring in people or to allow people to have the vote that they think will vote for them. They conveniently forget about the fact that we're the sovereign. And look, speaking of New York, Governor Cuomo says he's going to, with a stroke of his pen, allow 35,000 felons who are on parole, who have not really completed their sentence because they're still in parole, to be able to vote. And he's going to be able to do that by pardoning them. Now, New York already allows... allows felons to vote after they've served their sentence.
We have to leave it there, Tammy. We'll get to the felons next time. There's no end to them. Thank you for that, Tammy. Thank you, Jason.